Kia ora e hoa, ko te Kanapu Anasta tōku ingoa. I'm from Ruatoki, from Tūhoi, but yeah, born and raised in Australia. Come back in the last 10, 12 years to rediscover who I am as a Māori, and here I sit now as a Māori bringing up my children in the Māori world. Being a papa gives me purpose, it gives me grounding. You know, you can't afford to be loose in life when you've got children who look up to you. It really grounds you in finding what is the purpose and what do you want for your children and how do you walk in that direction so you can be the example for what you want for them. You know, and absent of that, you could probably still go in that purpose, but you probably go in crooked lines as opposed to harder straight lines. So my children give me a beautiful guiding light forward, and they give me my strength and my drive to create the world that I want them to grow up in. So it's everything. My first experience meeting my boy, it was quite a hard birth for my wahine. 23 hours, a few complications. You feel quite helpless here. And you know, usually being the man, being the protector, it was out of my hands. It was in the hands of the midwives and the doctors, and they took her into surgery. I remember this. And there was we were in a different country too, by the way. This was in Australia when I was working in the mines there, and yeah, after 23 hours of pretty hard labour and complications, and he was coming through breech and things like that. They took her in for a C-section. I had to sign this waiver, I remember. And the waiver was, if anything happened to either of them, that's life. So I had that, but you know, what do? You that's when you really turn to your whakapono, when you really turn to your taha wairua, and you believe that you're here for a reason, and you gotta go with it, and you gotta surrender to it sometimes. So this was the experience. I signed it, I kissed my wife, I let her go, and I was behind the closed door waiting. And I remember waiting, it was the longest wait ever. But what did I do at that time? Well, I did karakia, didn't I? And I just sat there and I waited, and once I got the opportunity to go through, I said, it's not going to be long now, things are going to work out really good. Very shortly, because your wife is not in a state to be able to care for, skin on skin process is going to happen with you, Papa. And I heard it, I listened, and as soon as my boy, I heard the sound of the suction of being pulled out from the womb, and as soon as I heard that, I just went straight into karakia. Now, I didn't know karakia very well at that time, but I had this one karakia. Tēnei au, te hōkai nei, aku tapu ai, ko te hōkai nuku, ko te hōkai rangi, which talks about the ascent of tāne, to go up to ngā rangi tūhaha, to get the free kete of mātauranga and bring it back down. And I karakia, that's the only karakia I had, and I karakia that over him. And I heard him crying, and then when I got him and put him up against my chest, and it was a very grounding experience again. I felt like a man with a purpose and with a gift that I've never felt before. And then I had him, and then I started singing taku rākau to him while he was crying, and I had him on my chest. And I remember looking with my scrubs on, and I'm singing taku rākau, and he stops crying, he looks up, and he's just gazing around, he's looking, he's censoring everything. It was a beautiful experience. It was a very wairua experience for me. And I remember my wife crying, go, oh, is he all right? He's beautiful. And me and my son having our moment, by the way. And I do believe that that was the catalyst for the hikoi that he walks now, and he's really become that person that we set together in the foundation of his entry into this world. So yeah, it means a lot. As a man in this world, our jobs are the protectors, the caretakers, providing the space, looking after our people, leading our family, leading our hapu, leading our iwi, leading the kaupapa that we are passionate about. And it's not an easy job being a man, but it's also a blessing as well, because it gives us the opportunity to go through challenges and to become really resilient and strong. And that's what I want from my tamariki. I want to nurture them and bring them up, to also nurture their kind and tender side, but also to give them enough pressure and challenges to make them resilient and strong for the challenges that are out here in the world, so they could be strong leaders themselves, to create the world that they believe is the world that they want their children to inherit as well. So that's really important for me to show that, to exemplify that through my mahi, through my work, and through how I look after their mother and the way that I look after them. And I want those values to be transmitted to them, and I want them to grow up and live those values. So that's really important. I was faced with my mortality. Now, the biggest challenge I had when I was faced with my mortality was the helplessness of not being able to raise my children, because that was my responsibility. And I did not want them to grow up and be in this world and not be strong men. That's what I want for my sons more than anything, is to be strong men. And I wanted to be here to be able to nurture that process. And I feel grateful now. One's 6, one's 10, and they're old enough, they've seen enough, they've seen me do enough. I've taught them enough that even if something happens to me now, I'm grateful. I know that they've got enough in them to get them through and to still be hopefully even better than their dad, because that's what we all want, right? My biggest goal is for my children to build upon what I've given them and to improve upon it. Hoi anō, ko te tauira te tino kai whakaako, ne? The example is the greatest teacher. Maha kua pēhea nā kōrero a te tangata, a waiho māwana mahi tonu e kōrero. Doesn't matter what you say, but your example speaks volumes, and your example is everything. So I think to be honest with ourselves as men, and be honest in the sense of are we honouring what we feel is important for us as men in this world, and what we want to create and what we want to leave? Are we honouring that? And you ask yourself honestly all the time, constantly, to keep that compass in line, to keep you moving forward in that space and place. And as long as you keep asking that of yourself, it gives you the drive to keep pushing. And that in itself is a powerful example for our boys, for our children. Ko te tauira te tino kai whakaako, the example is the greatest teacher. Ko tāu mahi hei pāpa, he tū pakari, e tū ai wo tamariki i runei wo pakihiwi, e tawhiti atu rā tā rātou titiro. Your job as a dad is to stand strong, to give your children strong shoulders to stand on, that they may see further than you've ever seen. Koira.